5th, and we're gonna be doing future connected any percent casual. For this, looking at the polls, it looks like Japanese voices one, and I've already changed it over, and then also Melia one. So we will be playing as Melia for this run, so be excited, as this is the first time I think any percent's been done as Melia for this. So, alright. So, we can do a countdown of 3, 2, 1, go. First thing is the intro cutscene, which is going to be about 15 seconds of loading. And then we'll go and get right to playing as Melia. We don't have to switch characters. That's nice, among some things. But there's some really super duper important first step. This is on casual. So I'm going to turn casual mode on, which is very important. Basically, it gets rid of agility penalties, so I don't have to worry about level ups, which means no grinding. And also, I go and deal double damage and take half damage, which is a pretty good thing, actually. But anyways, getting up to our first menu. So I'm gonna skip this cutscene, and we're gonna change around our party. We're gonna put in a character, and then we're gonna do some menu stuff. Then Ice. We're going over to Nene, and we're gonna give her Berserker. And for Melia, we're gonna fight a little bit like this. Basically, I'm gonna use 3 arts at the start of every fight, and then we're gonna go and use them both to buff the party and to go and take out enemies. It'll be a little bit easier to explain once we get into a shorter fight. The first fight's a bit unique in that we're invincible. We have auto heal on that basically means you can't take damage. But for other fights, it's not going to be like that, so we'll have to go and utilize Melia's buffs for a lot of stuff. Anyways, now we're going to be going into our first walking section. Going to be quite a bit of a run. See, there's an enemy flying, and what I'm going to do is, in a little bit they're going to attack me, and I'm going to jump. And that kind of cancels the animation. We'll be using that a few times in the run, as it saves a few frames. And it's kind of random whether we have to do it. Aside from that one, which is consistent, all the other ones are like, maybe, depending on the mood of the enemy. So anyways, we crash landed here, and we saw a town. So we're gonna go and pick up some stuff there, see what's going on. A little too close. There we go. Sometimes you can save some frames by skip traveling right before you get to an area. And speaking of skip travel, we're gonna do it again and run towards this gate over there. And this is going to introduce characters named as the Bot Inspectors. We're going to be getting 3 of them throughout the run, and they're very useful. But this one is just going to be a bunch of mashing. We're going to have to sometimes do quests and whatnot. Hello, Wolves. So, fun fact, if there's a little red circle below me, when you walk into a cutscene, like this... Wait, I just got rid of it in time. That was wonderful. I was going to say, when you have the red circle, it loads a little slower. But since I jumped, it got me out of range of them, and I didn't get a slower load. I actually did not know you could do that. But that is good to know. I've just started jumping at that section. There's like It'll start me a little closer to the gate when the cutscene ends, but that is very good to know. And hello, Tento. He's telling us just the story of the Pond Spectres. There's 12 of them, and they're scattered throughout the Bionis shoulder, which is where we are. And we're only going to collect 3 of them in this category, as we need 3 of them of different flag colors to unlock a special thing called Union Strike, which is going to become the most important way of fighting in the run. But for now, we only have 1 of them. So you can see there's that little pillar over there. That's going to be a landmark. And what we're going to be doing in this section of the run is setting up things for later. And that means getting landmarks. So, hello landmark. And then we can warp there later. And then we're going to go get another landmark. Also, you can tell that you don't even have to be anywhere close to the landmark position to actually get it, which is very convenient. And one thing unique to Definitive Edition, this is the only game we can do this, so when you jump, like, near the end, you can fast fall. It can save some times if you jump, like, right at the correct time. And you see that big gate? That's our next landmark. We have a little bit of an issue. There's quite a lot of enemies around here. I'm gonna try to be a little stealthy, as stealthy as I can, and around this little bush we'll get our landmark. And more stealth. Normally these enemies seeing you isn't the end of the world, but they can occasionally open up with an art that binds you. And that's really bad. So we're gonna kind of play it a little more safe. They did use the art, but they were too late. I was just fast enough. And the reason this is important is I'm doing a bit of a skip. I'm jumping all the way down here, just to go and skip like 2 minutes of movement. For that skip, fall damage is set, and if I were just to do the fall in 1 jump, Melia would not survive. But thankfully, you can just do it in 2 steps. And then you can go and get the skip to work. And here are some turtles. We're not going to be able to do anything with them. Alright, so next we're going to an endgame area and an endgame dungeon, like at level 60. But thankfully, none of these enemies are going to be able to take me out. Even this giant enemy here, they are not going to aggro. Quite a few things are going to while I'm on my way, and due to being Melia, we're going to exercise a tad bit more caution than usual. Gonna go behind, just they'll see me. Well, okay, they took a little bit to see me, but they did see me, but they're too far away to attack now. Melia has lower HP and defense than Shulk, so in some of the running sections, I'm gonna be a tad bit cautious. Also, there's this going on. It's always silly to see. But more importantly, there is a quarry. We're not going to go in the quarry just yet, but we are going to get the landmark, as this is actually a story location later in the run. Now we're back to our first landmark. It's very convenient. We can just travel so quickly. Gonna fast fall there, and then we're going to start going over to that pillar over there. Excuse me. So one thing about the Bionis shoulder is it is the birthplace of the giants, which are kind of extinct by the time we get around the Xenoblade 1, and they were taken out by giant spiders. And that's why all the, like, ruin areas in this game are gonna have enemies like that, which I'm not the biggest fan of. Thankfully, we won't be seeing too many of them throughout the run, but they will appear in one of the later dungeons. And coming up is another one of those skip travels that saves us some frames. I get around to past that little bush there. I'm gonna go and travel to Pillar Knoll, and it takes me a little bit further. And then, anyway, for the story, we're going to a city called Alchemoth because we were told we were shot down in our ship by something called the Fog King. And they live in Alchemoth. It's the giant floating city over there. You also can see that building. There's a teleporter. And with that, we're going to be able to teleport over to Alchemoth. And from there, we're going to presumably fight the Fog King. It's always nice. They changed the music to RFC music, which is an area from Xenoblade 1. It's where Alchemoth actually is in the old map. Although we're not quite at RFC, we're actually very scary how high up we are. It's just about to come night time. Will I get the animation? It looks like I just got it. Nice. And then here we are, to the island. And there it is, our teleporter. This time we're going to have a red circle and the load's going to be slower because of an enemy, but not much I can do about that one. Alright, I'm going to stay close to the wall, and there's our enemy. Hello. We're not going to fight that type of enemy, but we might actually see one of those later. Alright, teleporter. And one of the funniest skip travels coming up. We got main entrance, and you can see the flag is near those stairs. It's pretty far away. But we can just get there in one skip travel, because it puts us in the cutscene trigger. And then that brings us right to where we need to be. I've barely heard Dry's Japanese voice. That was very silly. Anyways, Dry, this is technically a side quest, because the Pond Specters are optional, but we're going to be doing 2 of them that don't require any combat. That's more or less the, like, theme of the Pond Specter quest. Enemies do not spawn in this area during this part of the story. So now we can just collect these feathers very easily. This one's a little further out. These are a little random, I think. There's our first one. Nope, we don't get a main entrance. We need to go and skip travel to Falcon. There we go. Now we're gonna go and get the main entrance. And time for turning in Dry's quest. His quest is he wanted to be a High Entia. So to help him, we're gonna collect some feathers and make him like a little hat. Alright, all done with Dry. So that's 2 Pond Specters of 2 different colors, so 1 more to go. And now we're gonna go up here to fight the Fog King. We heard like someone scream for help. What's really beautiful is whenever I need to know the story, I can bring up the story menus. And it doesn't take any time. And this will help us get how Melia combat works. This fight's gonna last a little bit longer. So I skip our cutscene, and this is what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna use Bolt, I'm going to copy the bolt. And then I'm going to use Earth. And we're going to launch Earth at them. Then we're going to use Flare. And use that on them. Then use Ice. And then we're going to use Bolt. See, the reason we want to use Bolt first is it gives us bonus ether damage. So all of those arts that I used before I started yelling Bolt, were now boosted in damage. And the other ones we want to use because they do damage over time. Earth is a really good damage over time, and then Ice and Flare, somewhat good damage over times. But you can get all of them going at once, along with bolts. And it's a very efficient combat. And now, it turns out, by the way, that was not the Fog King. It was a random bird that was affected by the Fog King. Although, the Fog King did show up, and they're made of fog, and that's basically where they got their name from, is all your attacks kind of go through them. And so we weren't able to attack them, which meant we just fled from the scene, and we're going to this laboratory to kind of learn about someone who's been trying to figure out how to attack the Fog King. This is another character that's in Xenoblade 1. They're a bit of a minor character for like a side quest, but in this they're a fully voiced character that is trying to... Basically there's these people named the Telephia. They were like formerly Hyentia, and they're trying to turn them back into Hyentia. And that's what Lean is researching. Another drop down, and also... Oh no, melee animations. So melee of animation for getting up is slower by like a second. And this actually is going to play a role in something later in the run that's kind of silly. But for now, we're just going to be taking a bit of a walk. To this rampart specifically. Which you can see are all the way over there. Wait, what's this item orb gonna be? Let's see... Snare wire, that's a good one. For 100%, you need the item orb, so I always find it funny if I get like an item orb that's actually useful. And that's where we're going, by the way, to Grandel. You can see it a bit in the background. I actually like this town, and thankfully we actually go in it a little bit. We don't get to climb that tower, though. It's very silly to go and climb it, because jumping in this game can sometimes not be cooperative. But there's a actual skip travel point up there. That's one of the secret ones. And it gives you a lot of experience. But we don't need it for this category. So instead, we're just going to head into town. Yeah. Let's see, you're gonna go in front of me? Nope, nice caterpillar. Or caterpillar. Xenoblade enemy names are like real animals, but slightly different sometimes. Hello, 1-1. That's a Pond Spectre, but we're not gonna do that one. We did a little skip travel, and now it's time for a cutscene. Followed by some shopping and getting our final Pond Spectre. We need exactly one thing from this fellow. A weapon for Nene. And then we also want that landmark, because we would like to go back here eventually. So our last Pond Spectre we're going to get for this category is not on that island, but the quest item is. And what's really nice is it's already spawned, even though we don't have the quest. The Pond Spectre is also very close by. They're right around over there. And this is also one that does not require combat. Because all we need to do is get Tutu's Mira. he dropped his mirror, and he won't leave the water because he needs to stare at his reflection. And if he had his mirror, he wouldn't need to do that. I'm gonna hug the wall because you can see, kind of, there's a giant turtle. And if that giant turtle sees me, then you can't collect items in this game if you're in combat. So now there's a giant turtle that saw me, but they aren't going to do anything this time. And here is Tutu. He's going to tell us that he needs to find his mirror, then we're already going to turn it in, because we have gotten that mirror. Alright, and now that we're able to Union Strike, because we have 3 Pawn Spectres, we're going to start the story. So, this is going to be a little bit of a cutscene, and now we're going to be concerned about some Fog King influence spreading. So we're now going to begin our fight against the Fog Beast. Wait, I don't need to go. Oops. I'm so used to playing as Shulk, I accidentally did the menu. But anyway, now we're going to go and level up our arts. Basically, for most characters, I'm leveling up the arts we're going to use the most throughout the run. And then we're going to go back to Soldier Seal Island and begin our Fog Beast fight. So, first, like before, I'm going to use Bolt twice, Earth, which gives us defense, and then Flare, and then I'm going to switch targets. I'm going to use something called Spear Break and Starlight Kick. That knocks enemies down, which is really nice, because they can no longer attack us. Also, you might have seen that little circle, that is Burst Affinity. It's going to be very important for later in the run, but for now it's just a bit of a bonus. You can see there's a little gauge in the top corner. That's going to be super duper important soon. But generally the goal of the fights is to get that gauge full. So we're going to do similar thing, Bolt, but now I'm not going to use Earth because this fight is a lot shorter. So we're going to go right to Flare, Ice, then I'm going to switch targets, and then I'm going to use my 2 bolts that I stole earlier, take down right around the same time. They were pretty close to it. Sometimes it can be really cool when they finish both. But anyways, now it's time for our first, or second boss fight, but our first Union Strike. So I already filled up the gauge in the previous fights, so we're going to start kind of the same way, with Bolt twice. And then you can see we have full gauge. So Union Strike is a quick time event. The final one is 2-frame window, and the goal is going to be to just do our best on it. You don't exactly have to be perfect to do a lot of damage. In fact, quite a few times in this run, I'm going to intentionally be doing not the best Union Strikes. Also, I'm switching targets because the fight doesn't end until Gauder's done speaking. But unfortunately, I got a crit, and so I killed the robot enemy early, so Gauder actually lived a little longer, but no big deal. So anyways, we're gonna have like the last walking section of the game, and what this is Razem, the person we met in this town, they have an idea for how to hurt the Fog King. And the idea is going to be to find a big crystal. And we use that so the Shulk's Monado can go and attack the Fog King. So what we were told is to talk to that soldier, who then told us that this soldier might know more. And he doesn't quite know, but he knows someone who kind of might know. So it's going to be someone named Sarja, and she is over here in this graveyard. Gonna be a nice swim over. And hopefully she is cooperative. If I talk to her and she is not facing me, so I'll have to turn around. So she's facing me right now, but what is she gonna do? She's gonna turn, so I'm gonna try to talk to her kind of to the side. Alright, and now, it's been a while, but we're back to the quarry that we got a long time ago, although this time we're gonna go into the quarry. And since I'm playing as Melia, we're gonna be doing this a little different than usual. Normally what we would do is I would, there's this egg, and I would land near it. That way I'm in combat, and I'm not getting HP back. But Melia has lower HP and defenses than Shulk does. Which means if I do that, I might die before we get to our goal. Our goal is to technically die at a landmark, but I do have to get to the landmark. So we're almost there. We're gonna jump. Just gotta get past this fellow. Alright, we got there. We also got slowed down a bit, but that didn't take us... There we go. It's always funny running through a high-level dungeon and somehow the swarm of enemies failing to take you out. But they did succeed, and they put us right behind our crystal. And now since we got that, we're going to go back to rise them, and presumably upgrade our Monado, which we don't see because we're not playing as Shulk. But alright, here we go. And then it turns out the Fog Beast, they've gotten even further along. So this is going to start a bit of a boss rush between some Fog Beasts. So first, I'm going to go and use the same arts. I'm going to use Bolt twice. And then focus on using my E-Farts. It's also very nice that they toppled. It's not going to be too much in the run, but topple is like if you see the pink bar that's break, then after that you can topple. It means the enemy can't do anything. And Melia have arts that can topple. But she needs the first spear break to do it. And so now we got full gauge, and the boss has been toppled a few times. So now we're just gonna go and kind of chill, and they'll go down eventually. They use something called Weakening Howl, which lowers our agility. So this means my physical attacks are missing a lot. And Shulk and Shulk and Nene mostly do physical attacks. So our damage output is a bit lower, but it's no big deal. Though went down. And now, Companion's Cape, the other town that we don't really go into but exist, is also under attack. For this one, it's going to be a little different. I'm going to do a Union Strike at the start, but that's about all I'm going to do with the bonus damage. I'd like to get some gauge for the next fight in the Gauntlet, and if I do too good on the Union Strike, I can instant-kill the boss. And since we don't want to instant-kill the boss, we're instead going to kind of damage the boss. Alright, we got our Burst of Divinity, so that's going to give us a lot of gauge. And now I'm going to go and topple. Almost. Unfortunately, Devour interrupted me, but we're good. So now, this is what we were preparing for. I got full gauge. We're going to fight a big dinosaur, similar to the one that we saw while we were walking to the quarry. And thankfully, I already have gauge ready for this. Alright, so we're going to open up, and similar to the last fight, I'm going to hold off a little bit on doing like a full Union Strike, as as I'd like to get gauge for some later stuff. But I did take out all those bats that were flying around, which is going to make the fight a bit more consistent. And now we're going to be spending the time to build up our gauge. Alright, we're going to go and topple them now, just so they can't really do anything scary. Alright, there we go. A little less gauge than I wanted, but thankfully there's not a boss immediately after. So, we're not like in danger. But anyways, almost at the end, there's only one fight left, but it's a very scary fight, especially when playing as Melia. So we're going to make sure we go into it very prepared. It's also quite a long walk, as we have to go up the stairs. There won't be a boss to interrupt us this time. There will, however, be a fog beast. I mentioned that we will be fighting one of these, and we're going to not take them out, but we're going to be using them to get gauge for the upcoming boss. So I want to start combat. Hitting that, by the way, increases the chances of critical hits, which is good because critical hits are what give us some party gauge. Alright, so I'm more or less just waiting for the gauge to go up. And it's basically full at this point, so I'm kind of just going to start running. The party can die, and it isn't a big deal, by the way, as I don't actually have to fight them. In fact, it would actually be bad if they won. Thankfully, they did not win. So now I have a lot of gauge. That's going to be super duper important, because the next fight, it's going to be 2 phases, and it's very scary to do if you do not have full gauge. So we're going to go and start right now for Fog King. So for phase 1, since this boss uses a lot of ether-based attacks, I'm going to use Ice, copy Ice to get double of it, then use Earth. And now I need to catch up to the party so they can get the buffs. You can see they get the buffs when I do that. And now I have my Union Strike. And similar to the last few, I'm not going to do a very good one, as I only want to take out the knights they summoned. And you see the knights are dead. And Fog King is a bit unique in that the auto attacks from Fog King, they actually hit the whole party. So I'm going to be standing to the side of the fight for both phases. And I don't like that art, so I'm going to use Spear Break, then that. Starlight Kick, and that's going to knock them down. And now, I'm not quite playing very aggressive. In fact, I'm barely doing anything, as I'm kind of waiting to get my gauge up. Although at this point, we're basically at full. So now we're just going to go and hit all the arts we have. So I'm going to go and use Bolt, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to use Flare, and I'm going to go and see, let's see what happens if I start my kick. So we hit the Spear Break, and start my kick. We're unfortunately stuck now. Alright, I have escaped Fog King, and I'm going to go and begin phase 2. So, thankfully for phase 2, I have full gauge. And that means I'm going to run up to him and immediately Union Strike. This time, I'm actually going to be trying to do a good one, as I'm not saving up for any later fights anymore. This is the final fight, and time is relatively soon. But first, we do need to survive. So I'm going to use Ice twice because they use a lot of ether attacks. Then Earth. And then buff up the party by standing closer to them. And now I'm going to just be kind of seeing what they're up to. What you doing, Fog King? Okay, that's not a big deal. I mean, Racing Disc gets rid of buffs, but it's not like the buffs that we're using. Oh, that's a great move. So, Convergence Beam is a really nice art because it takes forever to cast, which means they aren't doing anything dangerous. In fact, right when this is done, I'm going to Union Strike, and this might be close to time. Depends on the damage rolls. Alright, not the best Union Strike, so have a feeling we'll both survive this one. But thankfully I have all my interrupts ready. So time is basically now. I know when the fight ends. Alright, and that was Future Connected as Melia. Fights, quite a bit of it is kind of managing the party with your buffs, so you don't get to do as many buttons during the run, but it's still really fun, I think, and it's a lot unique compared to how the run usually goes. So I think it's pretty fun to show off.
Yeah, GG.
Thank you.
Any shoutouts or anything?
To like just Xenoblade speedrun stuff in general, there's lots and lots of games that are available to run, and then there's always this Future Connected, which is the shortest of the runs if anyone wants to kind of ever learn something that doesn't take too long.
Alright. Excellent. Where can we find you?
I stream at AlexisGoesMoo on Twitch, is same as my username in basically everywhere. I think so, anyway.
Alright. Well, thank you very much for that run. I do want to announce that we did open up a new